Okay. Shalom. This is Judah Nick again with Awaken Israel, and we're gonna be continuing First Samuel scripture reading. Today we're gonna be going from chapter 6 to chapter 18. That is 3 chapters, and this will be part of a playlist. By far as well, hopefully this is edifying to one person at least. Helps them in some form of way. Alright, let's get into it. All praise to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, let's get it. First Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take an heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. So a heifer is a cow, I believe. A heifer is a cow. Let's get translations real quick on NLT. It doesn't say that in the NLT. Yeah, take a young cow. See? A cow. Alright, let's continue. Take a heifer with thee, so a young cow, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. Alright, verse 3. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do, and thou shalt anoint unto me him whom I name unto thee. And Samuel did that which the Lord spoke, and came to Bethlehem, and the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peacefully? So they're asking if Samuel came peacefully, and he said, peacefully I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Amen. This is a very good scripture, man. All praise Yahweh Shem Yashai. Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel, and he said, neither have the Lord chosen this. And Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither have the Lord chosen this. And again Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord have not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. So we will not sit down till he comes here. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, and withal of a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look to. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil, and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Saul's servant said unto him, behold, now an evil spirit from the Lord troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants which are before thee to seek out a man who is cunning player on a harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. So, through music you can put evil spirits, and through music you can take away evil spirits, as we're about to see in the scripture. And Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly. And he came, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hands. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. See that? So music can also take evil spirits of people, as David did with Saul just here. And David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed, and the evil spirit departed from him. All praises, all praises. Chapter 17, verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shoko, I can find butcher names, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shoko and Ezekah in Y'all see it, man. Y'all see it. It's a long ass one. It's a long word. It's a long word. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Let's see how tall that is, guys. How tall is 6 cubits and a span? The Bible. 9 inches and 9 feet. Sheesh. Hey, Goliath was, man, he taller than me. 9 feet 9 inches. This is how you know the food back then was great. Now we've got all this rubbish. Crazy, man. But hey, let's continue. Verse 5. And he had an helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a tug of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him, and he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and your servants of Saul? Choose ye a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall you be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we might fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard the words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And when the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 elder sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons that went to battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and next unto him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 elders followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistines drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their thousands, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, they came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. So he repeated the same thing he said yesterday. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? Y'all hear that? For Israel is the army of the living God. All praises, all praises. And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spoke unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, What have I done? What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him toward another, and spake after the same manner, and the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth. So David is very young at this point, according to scripture. He's a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. So Goliath was a child of war from his young days, while he was a child. Alright, verse 34. And David said unto Saul, Thy servants kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and a lamb out of the flock. And I went after him, I smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, Moreover, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put on a helmet of brass upon his head, and also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with thee, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. Alright, I'm going to read that again, verse 39 in NLT. Let's try that real quick, just to get, a better understanding. David put on and strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such things before. I can't go in these, he protested to Saul. I'm not used to them. So David took them off again. Okay. All praises, all praises. Alright. Go back, we're gonna start at verse 40. We're gonna start at verse 40 of chapter 17. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the men that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of fair countenance. And the Philistines said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. And the Philistines said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts. So the Lord of hosts means army, the Lord of armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Wow. Yeah. This is cheating. This is cheating. Because remember, I'm pretty sure it said that Goliath was wearing a helmet too. So for Dave to sling a stone and go through the helmet and hit his forehead, that's a absurd amount of power. That ain't natural. It has to be, of the Lord upon him. But hey, let's continue. Verse 50. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines, until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Sharim, even unto Gath and Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the hosts, Abner, whose son is this? And Abner said, As thou livest, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son this stripling is. And David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine. Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Alright, let's go to chapter 18. Chapter 18. And it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David. Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Saul took him that day and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David and his garments, even to his sword, bow, and to his girdle. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely, and Saul sent him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all people, also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets of joy and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul hath slain his 1,000 and David his 10,000. Saul was very wroth, so he was angry, and the saying displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have described but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? So Saul was jealous because of women, saying that, he killed a couple. And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. So Saul had a bad eye towards David just because, a couple girls were saying, he took out a couple more men than him. But as these women are saying that Saul killed a lot as well, he killed thousands. So each their own, I guess. But he had an evil eye towards his brother for no reason. So let's get the NLT, verse 9 again and read it. So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David, as you see there. Alright, let's go back to the KJV. And let's see. Verse 10, and it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at the other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it, and David avoided out of the presence twice. So he dodged the spear, I believe, twice. So even when David was helping Saul did evil unto him by trying to kill him with a spear. Let's see. Verse 11. Let's read the NLT again. And he suddenly hurled it at David, intending to pin him to the wall, but David escaped him twice. Alright, let's go back to the KJV. It's like Alright, verse 12 of chapter 18. And Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed captain over 1,000. And when he went out and came in before the people, and David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself wisely, very wisely, he was afraid of him. For all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be the son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at that time, when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Mephibosheth to wife. I don't know who that is, Salakio. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and this thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king hath delight in thee, all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's plan against David. Wow. And Saul's servants spake these words in the ears of David, and David said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this matter spake David. And Saul said, Thus shall ye say to David, The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. So Saul's trying to kill David. Straight up, Saul's just trying to kill David, which is wicked. Does it want to come out and says, Thou shalt not kill. Now, he may be trying to doing it. Saul may not be trying to kill him directly by his own hand, but his intention is the same, so he's still breaking the command, which is evil. And to kill your own kinfolk makes no sense. But hey, let's 6. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200 men, and David brought their foreskins and gave them in a full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal's daughters, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and came to pass, after they went forth, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. All praises, all praises. So David's name was established for his how he acted. So he acted very openly in front of the Lord and in front of the people of Israel. Praises, all praises. Right, so that was chapter 18. And yeah, hopefully this was edifying. This was part of the playlist. Yeah, all praises to Yahweh, Bahai. Hopefully some form of way. Then, you know,